The actually good Saints at home against the might-be-good Eagles, who are looking to bounce back from Monday's gut punch. Saints favored by 3. Here's their head-to-head ranks. The Saints offense is unstoppable, and the Eagles defense is still a problem. So, Nick, we'll start with you. Would your faith in Philly be restored, which it was never really...
Would it be, would it be created?
Oh,
He didn't have any
win. Saints.
No, I think this is a spot where whomever wins, there's going to be massive incorrect overreaction to, I believe. Because I don't think the Saints are a great team, but if they win, they will be the talk of the NFL town next week.
Yeah.
And if the Eagles win, I think folks are going to convince themselves they should be 3-0. They were preemptively doing it. Should be 3-0. They blew the game. My concerns with Philly, I don't know how they could. There's one that they could soften, which is the defense going to be cripplingly bad again? You know what I mean? Like a good performance this week can at least make me feel like maybe they'll figure some things out as the year goes on. My other concerns can't be solved in a week. One is Jalen Hurts going to continue to turn the ball over at a higher rate than almost any quarterback in the league? We spent so much time earlier in the week yelling at each other. I was really the only one yelling about the Sirianni thing. We didn't talk much about the fact that they were down 1, close to field goal range, and Jalen threw a terrible pick. And the other one that definitively can't be solved in one game is I don't trust Sirianni's game management at all. So no, it would be a good win. And I think they absolutely can win this game. I think this is an overreaction spot by Vegas with the Saints. But no, it wouldn't. For me, I wouldn't all of a sudden have faith.
I tell you what, though, if they hold this defense to, say, 21 points, or this offense to 21 points, or so, I mean, that would be impressive because they haven't been good defensively. And New Orleans has been phenomenal offensively. And we obviously ran over Dallas. So that would impress me. If they lose, I won't lose faith in them. I still will think they can win the NFC East because the talent, particularly offensively, is just incredible. Even if Jalen's not an MVP candidate, I mean, he's got major league help, especially when you get A.J. Brown back. A loss, like a big loss, I would really probably lose faith in Sirianni, and you would wonder how long is he going to last. A win would just, like I said, tell me I think they're still going to win the NFC East. And I would have to see, though, Coach, a few more really good wins before I say, okay, they're one of the top teams.
Before you take them off Funk
Before
Watch.
I think really. They're on Funk Watch. They're on Funk Watch. And I want to see how Saquon bounces back.
Well, in a down offensive year so far, the Saints have matched what the most points are tied for second most points through 2 games.
That's a
most
good
points.
point too, in a down.
So that's a really impressive statistic, especially when you consider what's happening with the rest.
You
of
were
the
talking
league.
about in history, right? The second most points in
Well,
history.
last time was 09, right?
Yeah, second most points through 2 games in history, tied for the second most. So that's really impressive, especially considering what's happening throughout the course of the league. So if Philly's able to go in and do a good job defensively, it may not be perfect, but to recover from that 2-minute drive that they had at the end of the game, after the game should have been over, when Saquon dropped the wide open ball that would have sealed the game. But then they have to go out there and lose the game the way they did. That's tough. So seeing them rebound, I agree with Nick's point too. The other key data point is Jalen Hurts and 15 interceptions last year, which was tied for the 3 previous years,
and 3 already this year.
Yeah, now we're on record or on track to break that record. That it's concerning, and it's not trending in the right direction.
Brew,
all right, so here's the thing. I just want to start where they just ended with Jalen Hurts. Again, that second game versus the Falcons, that interception was so much more of like a desperate. He didn't handle it necessarily the correct way, but it wasn't just because he was loose with the ball. He was taking care of the ball the entire game. The entire game. I mean, he was playing unbelievably well. And at this point, his turnover-worthy plays is right in range with all the other quarterbacks right now. All the other quarterbacks. No question about it. PFF keeps the rankings. Go look at it. I already did it in a previous video, and you can see it. Okay, so we don't have to exaggerate and magnify this into something more than it's not. Does he have to take care of the football more than he is right now? Sure, we can make that argument without a doubt. But to act like this is like, the sirens are blaring and he's just being so awful with the football, that I wholeheartedly disagree with. If he continues turning the ball over, I'll change my opinion. With that said, this game, of course, we like how Nick kind of, highlighted it, where it's like, if they win, well, the Saints aren't that good. And if they lose, I don't think the Eagles are that good. And so therefore the Saints beating them is not that good. So then what does the Saints win against the Dallas Cowboys mean? Because I've said that I don't think the Dallas Cowboys are that good, right? But I didn't think they were that good last year when they won 12 wins. And, that still makes people just lose their mind. So again, you can't always just go by the record, okay? But here's the thing. It was so obvious and clear to me that what was going on, I watched every single snap of that Saints versus Cowboys game, that the Saints, it was not just a fluke of a game for the Dallas Cowboys. There's no evidence to believe that. The Cowboys have consistently been who they've been for, honestly, the last couple of years, and Dak has been this quarterback for, pretty much from the jump. So, again, the way how I look at it is I agree. I don't know how great the Saints are because they beat the Panthers and then the Cowboys. The Cowboys typically play like this against other good to great teams. So I'm comfortable saying that, you know what? I have no idea how great and how elite the Saints are, but I'm confident that they're a good team, that they're a really good team, that they're not just this trash team or this average team that they just so happened to beat the Cowboys. That I disagree with, okay? What they're doing offensively is fantastic. And what they did defensively against the Dallas Cowboys was awesome, okay? They made Dak uncomfortable the whole day, and really, he only had one big play to CD, and it was sheer luck that it was just a missed tackle, right? It was like a similar type of setup as, the Minnesota versus the Saints game with the missed tackle where they ended up going to the NFC Championship game. So it was just one of those things where that was just kind of poor execution on the Saints' behalf. So, no, I really think that the Saints just owned that game start to finish. And it wasn't just because, the Cowboys just didn't show up to play, or, it was a couple bad bounces that just kind of went the wrong way, and then the game went out of control. And so I'm emphasizing all of that because if the Saints beat Philly, if they beat Philly, honestly, even like pretty good, this is what my one takeaway would be. Is one, I would question the Eagles' resilience in terms of how great are they when they don't have all their pieces? Because you have some teams, no matter how stacked they are, right? If they're missing a guy or two, they really just come back down to earth. While you have other teams who are stacked or maybe even just great, and they miss a guy or two, but they're a lot more resilient just because of the structure of their team, the balance of how good their offense is versus how good their defense is, the type of quarterback that they have. It just allows them to be a little bit more resilient. Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills comes to mind, honestly, for that matter. But then you have teams where they just really crumble or they're just not good. But when they have everyone full strength, they are elite and they are a top-level team. It's possible that that's who the Eagles are when they have A.J. Brown. That A.J. Brown needs to be there. If A.J. Brown is not there, the Eagles have no true chance at going far. But if A.J. Brown's there and they have all the weapons and all the Avengers, as Nick likes to put it, well, then they are a force to be reckoned with. Let's go. Because that's what they said about Brock Purdy and the 49ers. That if one of the Avengers is gone, Debo, Christian McCaffrey, the 49ers are in trouble and they're not good, right? Whether that ends up being true or not, I don't even care because I'm also referring to last season. It doesn't even matter. The fact of the matter is that when they were full strength, they were a top team in the NFL, obviously almost winning the Super Bowl. So that easily could be the trajectory for the Eagles. So I would be way more concerned if A.J. Brown was here, the Eagles were full strength, and they lost. They got blown out, right? They got beat convincingly good, and it was just obvious that they were not good enough. Then I would find that troubling for the Eagles. But losing this game without A.J. Brown is a big, giant question mark because you are talking about, I know Saquon technically does the most, or he's the most versatile technically, but A.J. Brown is the offense. He's the one that makes the offense completely go, right? As Con Cowherd kind of highlighted in a previous, I think it was yesterday that he did, or a couple of days ago. So, and I did a video about that as well. So feel free to check it out. So I do think it's a valid point. I think it's a little bit overemphasized because it was too much targeted on Jalen Hurts, and I won't go on a tangent about that, but it's undeniable how important AJ Brown is to the Philadelphia Eagles and what they're trying to accomplish. So that's why if they do lose against the Saints, it's not the most alarming. If they get blown out by the Saints, I would be I would find that concerning, but it would still be the caveat of like why I still want to see what AJ Brown would have brought to that game, because it's not hard to imagine that if AJ Brown played against the Falcons, that game's not really that close. I mean, I don't think that's such a far stretch. Now, if the Eagles play this game close and they lose by a touchdown, they lose by 10, but it was clear, because the final score itself doesn't even really matter, honestly, because all of these games, for the most part, are all within one score. Like, it's like, I forget what the stat is, but it's like the vast majority of football games, no matter who you're playing, are all within one score. But again, I've said this now repeatedly for weeks for all these games. I'm just seeing I'm looking to see if you belong. If the Eagles play the Saints, who I think are a really good team, and I'm figuring out how great, how top level are they. If the Eagles, even if they lose but they look like they clearly belong, like not unlike against the Falcons, I'm like, okay, great. They got some things that they need to work on. They need to kind of clean up some of these rough edges, but they still clearly belong, right? The Cowboys looked like they did not belong with the Saints. That's what was alarming to me, right? Like that's the difference to me. So it's definitely going to be an interesting game. And if the Saints prove to truly end up being that great of a team, this is what I was saying to someone earlier, it's like, well, then the Saints might just be one of the best teams in the NFL. And I'm not saying that if they beat the Eagles, that's proof that they're one of the best teams in the NFL. But if the season unfolds in a way where the Saints are clearly for real, they are clearly like, let's go, well, then, yeah, the fact that they then, if we look back on it and say, yeah, they beat the Eagles pretty good, it's like, well, yeah, they were just a better team. So it makes sense that the Saints are beating everyone. That's what happens. Really good teams beat other teams. Right? So it's definitely an interesting dynamic. This is definitely a tricky third game to figure out. It would have been a little bit easier if the Saints played, instead of the Panthers week 1, they played someone like, I don't know, like the Bills, like the full strength Rams, the Lions, just a team that I would have a little bit more confidence in. I know they demolished the Panthers, but I think we take that too extreme when a team really blows out a bad team. We say like, well, it's hard to do that against any team, and it's true, but sometimes the score can really get away from you, and it's not necessarily an indicator of how great you are. Again, look no further than the Cowboys blowing out teams last year, only to be blown out by other great teams. So again, it just all has to be put into context. But this is an exciting game. I understand why the Saints would be favored, especially missing AJ Brown and especially that run game that they have and seeing what they can do against the Eagles. But it is funny that it's already just kind of being constructed in a way where it's like, if the Eagles win, it's because the Saints aren't really that good. And if the Saints win, it's because the Eagles aren't that good and the Saints aren't that good, and they beat the Eagles, and that for the Eagles aren't that good, right? And it's like, okay, sure. I'm just, get lost in that logic, because it's just it can be so bizarre, because the truth is, if you really want to be 1000% unbiased, just pure computer depersonalized analysis, then we would say all of these games essentially really don't matter right now. Seriously, as Travis O'Shea and me and him had said that like months ago at this point, like, you really don't know who any of these teams are until like week 5, 6, 7, 8. Like, you just don't know. Right? There's plenty of teams that are looking a little rough right now, like the Ravens, like the Bengals, but are we sure they're not? The Chiefs' offense has not been good. Travis Kelce has straight up said it. This offense has not been good, and he took blame for it. Patrick Mahomes has 3 or 4 interceptions and I think like 5 or 6 turnover-worthy plays, so he's not playing good. But does anyone think that he's just not good now? No, it's just the beginning of the season. Things can go bad. You can get off to a slow start. You can get off to a weird start, like whatever it may be. You could have a weird schedule. Things happen. So it's just tough. So theoretically, we could just say, well, we don't really know who the Saints are. We don't know how good they are. And the Eagles, we don't know how good they are. Maybe the Packers are a great team, but they played them week 1 when the Packers were rusty. Maybe if they played the Packers full strength in week 7, the Packers blow them out, or vice versa. Maybe the Eagles are actually an unbelievable team. They're a little rusty right now. And if they had AJ Brown, they would be, knocking everyone out. You just don't actually know, but that's not fun. That's like, sometimes people try to point some of that stuff out where it's just like, we don't know. And it's like, we just have to wait. And it's like, well, yeah, under that logic though, then we shouldn't, have any of these shows. Like, to me, what I'm personally learning and realizing, that the beginning of the season right now is actually some of the most fun I'm having, because we have to try to figure this out. It's like, it's very hard, like, to figure out, are the Saints good? I don't know. They beat the Panthers and they demolished the Cowboys, but I don't know how good the Cowboys are. So is beating the Cowboys that impressive? Kind of like what Nick said in a way, where he said some people are going to praise the Saints if they beat the Eagles and they're going to overreact to that, but he doesn't think that the Eagles are that good. And it's like, well, that's how I'm kind of feeling about the Saints beating the Cowboys, or the Cowboys beating the Browns. So it can be fun, because you do kind of have to figure out, I don't know how good of a win this is. Are the Browns actually an amazing team? And so the fact that the Cowboys made them look like that says a lot. Are the Browns actually a really great team, but they just got off to a really bad start? Like, to me, all those questions and trying to figure it out, you got to kind of be like a detective. I'm actually having a lot of fun doing it. And it seems like people are kind of divided on whether enjoying that process or getting very angry. There's definitely still a big section of fans that are like, you only play who you can play, right? A win is a win. And it's like, it's really, really not. I promise you, it's really, really not. And a loss is not a loss. There is absolutely positively different. I played enough sports at enough high levels that when you beat up a bad team, it is nowhere near the same as losing to a really good team, but you play better, but it's a closer score. You will take losing to a great team in a smaller margin than demolishing a bad team. Bad teams demolish other bad teams, right? No bad team, for the most part, outside of every once out of 100, does a bad team play great against a great team. It's just such a rare occurrence, and the only time that happens is if that great team is clearly not playing that great, like the Chiefs and some of their other closer games with bad teams. They were just not playing their best ball. So it's a complicated picture that we're trying to paint in week 3 right now, right? Like, it is an actual struggle. That's why I take issue with such definitive statements in a lot of ways, because sometimes it's just, if you're going to be definitive, then you have to be consistent. And if you're definitive without being consistent, then where is that confidence coming from? It's not. It's just in your thoughts and feelings. It's not actually based off of logic and reason, and that will always kind of bug me out. But yeah, those are just my thoughts. I would absolutely love to hear yours. Would your faith in Philly be restored with a win? Do you think you could really learn? I guess, honestly, another interesting question is, do you think we can learn anything about either of these teams? Since I guess theoretically both these teams are question marks. Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.